to swiftly move it on to Brexit now, which is obviously our bread and butter.
Yes.
The first question is, how do you reckon Britain should handle the Brexit negotiations? How would you know, as a country, how do you think we should approach it?
I think we should be a lot stronger than what we are at the moment. You know, you've got Theresa May, who's Prime Minister, and she's a very weak Prime Minister. You know, she called the early general election, and she failed to get a majority against a very weak opponent in Jeremy Corbyn. And I think Theresa May, to be honest, did herself no favours again. She didn't debate in the general election, and that cost her a lot of support. But consequently, we are where we are. I think we've got to be a lot stronger. You know, Britain is the fifth largest economy in the world. We've got trade links with America, with Asia, with Australia. We've got links with everybody across the whole world. We are a strong country, you know, and we should go into these negotiations saying to the European Union, look, we are Britain. We are a strong country. We want a serious negotiation. We want to be friends. We want to be trade partners. But we want to be an independent nation, and we're not going to put up with any of the nonsense, quite frankly, that we're getting from the European Union.
Yeah. Do you reckon Britain should pay a divorce bill, obviously, for coming out of the EU?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We should not pay a penny more into the European Union. At the end of the day, we've paid in £270 billion over the last 40-odd years that we've been members of the European Union. We don't owe the European Union anything. If anything, we should be sending them a bill for what they owe us.
Yeah. It's like the one thing I will obviously ask you a quick question on is the BBC, you know, the news outlets, they always go on about what we owe them, what we owe them, what we owe them, but they never speak about what they actually owe us.
Absolutely.
What's your thoughts on that? You know,
I totally agree. I think the biased broadcasting organisation is just, it's just an absolute disaster. You know, I mean, it really is. The BBC is just so remain. It's unbelievable. And every other day, people hear, well, despite Brexit, you know, somebody's dog gets run over by a car. That's Brexit's fault somehow. I mean, it's absolute nonsense. You know, we are a strong country. We've got a real opportunity to get a decent deal with the European Union. If they're not prepared to have a decent deal, then we should have the confidence to say, look, we are not going to put up with this nonsense. We will get out there and be a global trading nation, which is what we always should have been.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think the Tories and obviously Tories were like Remainers, really? You know, Labour, Remainers. You know, they're trying to champion Brexit at the minute. You know, under the Remain cloak, shall we say? You know, how committed do you think Brexit? You know, to Brexit, do you think they are?
I really don't think Labour or the Conservatives are committed to Brexit at all. Not in the slightest. I mean, I remember going into TV studios, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, and I was the only one, the UKIP spokesman, arguing for Brexit. You know, the Tory would say, oh, well, I'm not really sure we should stay in for trade, but I'm not really sure. The Labour one would say, no, we've got to absolutely stay in the European Union. You know, it'd be death to us if we left the European Union. Absolute nonsense, of course. But the Tories and Labour have a big problem, and it's this: their MPs want to stay in the European Union, but their voters, the vast majority of them, want to come out of the European Union. And what they're basically doing now is they're saying, oh, we're fully behind Brexit, we support Brexit. They don't really, and everybody knows it.
Yeah. With obviously the EU, by the looks of things, you know, coming up with this narrative of we can't give Britain a decent enough deal to make it look like, obviously, if anyone else comes out there when they get a decent deal, this, that and the other. Do you reckon Britain will actually get a good deal from the EU?
I can't see us getting a deal, to be honest. I really can't. I look at this every day. There's another negative story about Brexit. Let's be honest about it. The European Union is an undemocratic organisation. It has no legitimate democratic mandate in this country or any of the other 27 member states. Every time they have a democratic mandate against them, they ignore it and they push ahead with this European project that they're determined to have. And the problem is it's just a disaster. The euro is a disaster. You know, the whole European edifice is falling apart, and they do not want Britain to leave. And ask yourself the question, why do they not want Britain to leave? The reason they don't want Britain to leave is because if Britain leaves, then lots of other countries will start leaving as well. Yeah. Because we do not want to be in the European Union. We have no problem with Europe. We just don't want to be in the European Union as a political organisation.
Yeah. It's like at the moment they always say, don't they? What's Brexit going to look like? What's Brexit going to look like? One thing I can tell you, and you know, which we all know. Now we know when obviously they had the meeting at the in Brussels not long ago. At least we know what being in the EU would look like.
Absolutely. Look, we've known what the European Union looks like because we've been in it for the last 40 years. You know, we were told before the EU referendum, the EU does not want to pursue an EU army. Now they've come out and said that they want to have an EU army. You know, this thing started off as a group of countries being in a free trade agreement. I think everybody supports free trade. What they don't support is the political control and the undemocratic nature of the European Union. And that, as what I said many, many times before, and I've said it in this interview already, I think that is the main reason that people voted to come out of the European Union. Immigration is an issue. Yes, we want control of immigration. But also it is about sovereignty. It is about independence. It is about freedom. It is about being able to control your own country and its destiny. And that ultimately is why people voted to come out of the European Union. And I really don't think the European Union has grasped that fact.
Yeah. This is the question for myself, this. You know, with what's happening with Brexit and everything else, and obviously what's happening in Catalonia, you know, in Catalan and everything.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on? Do you reckon there's like a time limit going to end soon for the EU to kind of disband? Do you think they're on borrowed time at the minute?
I think they're on borrowed time, and I think they know it. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to stitch and hold everything together for as long as they can. They're trying to delay the Brexit process for Britain so that, you know, we can somehow be stopped or kept in the European Union by everything but name. And it's just not going to wash with the British people. You know, the EU's got form as long as your arm on this. You know, look what they did to France. Look what they did to the Netherlands when they had the EU referendums, which rejected the EU constitution in 2005. What happened? They forced them to say, well, right, we'll just change it around a little bit and we'll change it from being an EU constitution to being the Lisbon Treaty. But it's basically the same thing. And look what they did to Ireland. I mean, what they did to Ireland was an absolute democratic outrage. The Irish voted down, you know, the fact that they didn't want to be in the European Union. And what they did is they just got them to vote again. Yeah. You know, and they piled all of the money in. And they basically forced Ireland to change its mind in a democratic process. Now that, for me, shows you how undemocratic the EU is. And it is the absolute obvious reason why we do not want to be in this thing.
Yeah. It's like when I've been speaking on social media and stuff, and there's like Liberal Democrat people there, you know, and it's what makes me pull my hair out is the fact that they said they want a second referendum, right? But this is the thing, the second referendum should have the option whether to stay in as well. So in other words, the first vote didn't count, so what we'll do, we'll put the same vote again, you know, leave without a deal, or remain.
Well, this is it. We have a Remain establishment, and it's marked out in Labour, in Conservative and Liberal Democrat. They do not want to leave the European Union. It's almost as if, oh yes, the people have made this choice, but they've made the wrong choice, so we're going to give them the chance to vote again. No, the British people looked at this honestly, and they realised that the European Union is an undemocratic, corrupt organisation that they want absolutely nothing to do with. We want to be a free, independent, sovereign nation. And the British people made the right decision. And unfortunately, as much as the establishment hate it, I don't think the British people will accept Brexit not happening.
Yeah. Do you think that we should be actually having some talks and stuff with other countries at the moment? Obviously, even though we are obviously in this negotiation, I'm not saying sign deals because obviously that'll go against you know, the Article 50 or something, will go against that. You know,
well, you're not supposed to. Yeah, well, the thing is, you're not supposed to actually start talking about trade deals with other countries until you've actually left. Which, yes, I can understand that, but I think we should be having those conversations. Maybe not. Yeah, we should be having the dialogue behind the scenes. I think because we want to have the best possible trade deal for Britain. There's loads of countries that want to sign up. You know, Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, China. All these countries have said they would have a free trade deal with the UK as soon as we leave the European Union. And again, it comes back to, you know, well, why do we want to be in this thing? We can't even sign our own trade deals when we're in the European Union. You know, Iceland, a country that has, you know, a population the size of Newcastle, you know, has a free trade agreement with China. Britain doesn't while we're in the European Union. That, I think, makes the argument perfectly well.
With the Tories, obviously, pushing this transition period, you know, what's your thoughts on this transition period, but without an expiry date by the looks of it?
I think this is a way for Remainers to try and keep us in the European Union by the back door. The British people won't accept it. It won't wash with them. They can see what's going on. This is an establishment that's trying to keep us in. We want to leave. We've voted to leave. We must leave. Not just in name, but the whole way through. We must leave the European Union. We must have complete control and sovereignty of this country.
Yeah. We're going to move on now to other issues, and obviously just your thoughts really on different subjects. First one being, Tony Blair is leading for the calls for a second EU referendum. Now, it's as if like he can't leave what's going on. You know, he has such a bad reputation, but he still comes back.
I mean, well, Tony Blair is without a doubt the biggest slimeball in the history of British politics. I mean, this man has done so much damage to this country.
It's a stain.
Exactly, over the last 20 years. And I would argue that, you know, Blair was Gordon Brown, so was David Cameron, and so is Theresa May. His policies are still there. It's almost as if he's still in government now, you know, because they're exactly the same. Labour, Conservative, they're both Blairite. You know, I know Corbyn's a more extreme left socialist, but the policies haven't changed. And, you know, Tony Blair is just unbelievable. He really is unbelievable. You know, he goes and he makes millions and millions of pounds across doing things all over the world, and then he comes back and sort of lectures us on what's right for this country. Yeah. What on earth would he know what's right for this country when he's done so much damage to it, not just when he was Prime Minister, but afterwards as well?
Yeah, yeah. You know, with what's your thoughts of May with the possibility of giving prisoners the vote?
I think it's absolutely disgusting that we could even be talking about this. You know, it can't be right that we give the right to vote to the lawbreakers. You know, it's just absolutely wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. I've always opposed it. I've spoke very vigorously about it in the past. I just think it's wrong. You know, if you're a lawbreaker, you cannot be someone who decides who the lawmakers are. And so my view is that prisoners shouldn't get the vote. And whatever the European Union says, frankly, who cares? We're leaving the European Union. So we just tell them, no, I'm sorry, we aren't doing this. If you're going to find us, send us a fine. We'll throw it in the bin.
What's your thoughts on like the British, you know, in the UK crime rate's going up by 13%?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that the crime rate had gone up 13%. I mean, I've always been somebody who's advocated, you know, tougher policies on law and order. I did so when I ran for the leadership, and I've been a very strong advocate. Yeah, very strong on that. I think we do need tougher policies on law and order. I think we do need more police as well. And I think the fact that the crime rates have gone up 13%, but also the arrests by the police have actually halved. You know, I saw those figures the other day. So it's a very bad situation. The police need more resources, I think, to be able to deal with these issues.
Yeah. With, obviously, putting aside our politics, we say, to one side, you know, with the Brexit and EU referendum and everything else, you know, on a global political sort of scale, really, you know, we face a lot of dangers at the moment.
Definitely.
You know, one of them being Trump and North Korea face off, more or less. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, the first thing that I think of is, you know, when you think of America, a country of 250 million people, the best they could do for their two presidential candidates was a corrupt Hillary Clinton and was Donald Trump, who's not exactly the sanest person, in my view, to ever hold office. It's worrying. You know, I think Trump was probably a better choice than Clinton, but it's a marginal choice. They're both pretty bad candidates. In terms of North Korea and Trump, I think it is a worrying situation that's going on over there. You know, there's a lot of rhetoric, there's a lot of bluster. Whether it'll actually amount to more than that, I'm yet to be convinced. I think this is a lot of rhetoric. I think, you know, Trump's trying to secure himself as US president, and I think the North Korean leader's also, you know, doing a lot of saber rattling here. I'm not so sure it'll go beyond saber rattling. I certainly hope it doesn't, because it potentially has a very wide-ranging and potentially devastating effect if there was a war between America and North Korea. But my own view on that is that I think, you know, Britain has got to stop trying to be the world policeman. If America wants to deal with a lot of the problems around the world, that's up to America. But I don't think Britain has the resources or, frankly, the will to do that, and I don't think we should be the world policeman.
Yeah. The other day, well, it was the other night actually, I think it was, Sky News had like a programme where they had like a big debate. I'm not too sure what it's called, I can't remember what it's called, the programme's called, but they had like a big debate.
Is it The Pledge?
Yeah,
The Pledge.
That's the one. And they were talking about giving ISIS, you know, fighters that have gone from this country, gone to fight for a terrorist organisation, to just come back and walk our streets again. You know, to me, I don't understand that sort of analogy of we should just be accepting people coming back in, and you know, they must have seen a lot of stuff, and they've gone fighting for another a terrorist group.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, these people have fought for a named terrorist organisation, and you know, I said during the general election, I put a statement out on this, and I said, look, you know, people who actually go and fight for a terrorist organisation to maim and kill women and children and as many people as they can, they have no place coming back into this country at all. And as far as I'm concerned, if they come back to this country, we should take their passports off them when they come back. They should not be allowed back in, and we should pass them on to the authorities, and they should be dealt with in the appropriate way.
Yeah.